Welcome, 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 brothers, welcome, sisters, welcome as we start this program. You telephone and give us a call. We never have a subject matter. We speak about anything. Politics, religion, socioeconomic issues, any issue trending. It's a long time we didn't speak about issues from the international community. And today we have a war that is raging between Russia and Ukraine. It has been going on for over 1 year. There seems to be no ceasefire in place. So one could say now that Ukraine going to lose this war. Just numerically speaking, Ukraine has a population of about 36 million. And Russia have about 4 times that, about 140 million. Ukraine must have lost more than 250,000 people dead from Ukraine. And even though, let's say, Russia lose 100,000, how long would Ukraine continue to able to get men to supply in that war? I guess they're fighting a war hoping that sometimes Europe and America and NATO would intervene. NATO has already gotten Switzerland and Finland, I think, some other country, to join NATO. So NATO is stronger as a result of this war. China perhaps have benefited significantly, because if they could invade Ukraine, although they had treaties with Ukraine, they invade Ukraine because of history. Then the treaties China have with Russia, they could also break it and invade aspect of Russia because of history. It's unfortunate and it's sad, because some countries could have helped to intervene in that war and stop it. African countries took side. They didn't appear as a mediator. They openly took side. I thought it was a good opportunity for Africa to play a leading role in geopolitics. But they just took side. Africa have about 1.6 billion people, and they're bigger than a lot of countries. But they have not played the role perhaps black people expect them to play. They continue to fragment and take side. After this war, Ukraine will be decimated. It is easy for Europe to absorb the population of Ukraine and continue to hold that as a politically torturous position against Russia. Most of the European countries don't have enough people, so it's not hard to absorb Ukraine position. What would be the fallout for countries like us in the Caribbean and even Africa? Africa doesn't seem would be united. But that is there. But in Grenada now, when you watch the politics in Grenada now today, you could go back 70 years ago and the politics is almost the same thing. The more things change, the more it remains the same. The first time in Grenada history, we had 2 clear political parties was GNP and GULP. The line of demarcation was clear. You is a GNP, you is a GULP. And the perception then was GNP was supporting the more educated people, the richer, the plantocracy or the remnant of the plantocracy. And GULP was basically the estate children, illiterates. and those in the last socioeconomic strata. You fast track today, and you have political parties, and the perception is still the same. Although the children of God have a mass education, and the economic situation have improved, so it's difficult to discern the economic wealth between the NDC and the NNP. It's difficult. You cannot seriously draw a line in terms of intelligentsia. Although sometimes the NDC gives the impression, or people believe they are the brightest thing since sliced bread, both sides attract a similar number of very intelligent people or university graduate. But the perception is still that the National Congress is hostile to the people in the lower income group. Yes, caller, welcome.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Pierre. Saying that, in this period of Lent, I want to call on my people, my Christian people. Let's continue going down in sackcloth and ashes and praying for our people, especially the low-income bracket people. Because you see the tears, you see the sorrows, you see the hardship that is taking place among our people. And many of them don't deserve that, yes? And Mr. Pierre, when you look at it, Jesus Christ is the answer. And when you would have listened to Jimmy Cliff, that songs that is sang, about the poor people, sometimes when you go back to those songs and you go back and listen to them and you see the problems, the suffering in the land right now as it is, we have to continue calling on the Lord to help us and to save us and deliver us from these ills that is taking place in our country. And I want to applaud all the organizers, the schools, the parents, the sponsors for the organizing the Intercall event, because Intercall is an activity where the stadium, you have to say, is filled in capacity. And I want to, tell parents and teachers and so on, be mindful, be disciplined, and do all that you can to be the stars for the future. But Mr. Pierre, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday are 3 days for Intercall. So my Wednesday, Senate is on. Is it hide away the bill, the bill, the protection bill? Is it to continue hiding away from the people? I don't know. I think people should realize what is taking place. So, Mr. Pierre, I just want to pause a little bit. Maybe I'll come back.
Yes, scholar. People have always turned to Christ in times of trials, and that is good. We always have to remember we have knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, and we have free choice. A lot of the decisions that we made in Grenada was choice. And a lot of the negatives that we have was well supported. And all of us in Grenada, or the majority of people in Grenada, are Christians or religious people. So we have this commonality among us. I guess sometimes it's understanding of the politics. And we have free choice. So it's a question of holding discussion, being tolerant to one another, and exchanging ideas. Sometimes I always make some attempt to hold discussion with members of the National Democratic Congress who I believe are political activists or the more militant arm. That is important. That I consider that the government is hostile to. And they deny that. There's one, I don't know if I said that before, but one young man seems to be in glee or donkey glory of the dismissal of some people. He said they're unproductive. They're getting free money and they're unproductive. I asked the question to him, because I have a good idea of his situation. We live in the similar communities. What would happen to your home if you had a stroke or your foot break and you can't walk for you? What would happen to your home? And looking at his face, I could see panic. While he was chastising all the people he called greedy and lazy and don't want to work, it just dawned on him that he's the only income generator in his house. And he worked for good money. Tell me he was making about $6,000. He's a highly skilled individual. Even the nature of his work could bring serious occupational hazard. He's a welder. A lot of welders blind Ollie. Some people don't encourage their children to do welding. And they say if you're a welder, don't spend too much years doing that job because you're going to lose your sight. You call that occupational hazards. I have said before, if you're working for $3 or less in Grenada, as far as I'm concerned, you're in a vulnerable group. If that is your only source of income. If you have any major medical health, you'll have to go and raise funds. Once you have a major health problem that would involve outside interference. And that is the only time some people realize they're broken. You have a lot of Grenadians, their income is about $3,000. And why do I use $3,000 with this regularity? That is the minimum threshold before you start to pay personal income tax. It means that the government recognizes that point as a critical point. If you work, your income is $3,000, maximum $3,000, and you have a family, and you own a car, you're broke. You broke. Sometimes your life is a show. You're living above your means. You're giving the impression you don't even have money to pay to give additional lessons or classes to your own children. If you're not working in a medical health, in a workplace that have medical health insurance assistant, you're in trouble. Teachers have medical health insurance, public officers, police, and the government pays half of the policy based upon the scheme they have. Public officers, teachers, police. Some workers in electricity company and telephone may have medical health. I don't know if Nawas have. But if your salary is that, as soon as you have a medical challenge, you have to go raising funds. Even people who don't drink alcohol because of their religion, when they're sick, they have to go for the community to make dance and sell alcohol to pay the bill. But sometimes you hear these people speak and you think they have discretionary income and they are not vulnerable. And over the years, we have practically piled insults on those we consider vulnerable. So some people don't want to tell you they're vulnerable. I know some individuals who have vehicles, cars. They have a car. And they see in trouble to buy gas. I loan Oli. If you cannot maintain a car, take the bus. Because it is easy to buy a vehicle. You save up at 30,000, 40,000, you buy a transport. The challenge is to maintain it, to pay the insurance, the license, and regularly maintain that vehicle. You see, over the last 10, 12 years, Grenada doubled the amount of vehicles that we have. But a lot of people have vehicles they can't afford to even sit down in a house. The woman has the house, the man have the house, and they have tourist relationship. They can't live together. They're broken. Yet, they like to have the status that they are not vulnerable. The quicker we wake up and face the reality is better for us. The economic situation in the world today and the threat of war and disease could bring small nation like ours to our knees. We must always look at Haiti and Jamaica, because there are a number of people that are living in destitute, utter poverty in Jamaica. Look at the crime level in the Caribbean. St. Lucia was balling recently. They want the special service unit from other countries to assist them. And they want to go in the parliament and pass laws, stiffer penalty. That cannot help. That cannot help. We are laying the groundwork for violence. In Grenada today, after all these years, and one who believes they have made some serious improvement, not only in infrastructure and education, but understanding of the reasons and justification for violence and poverty. We seem to be turning the hand of the clock back. We have become extremely insensitive to the elderly. We have become insensitive to the less fortunate and the marginalized. The government of the day institutionalizing victimization. The government is entering an area that could have serious repercussion for all of us in the future. So we're walking inside there, burying our head in the sand. This action by the government would contribute to increased violence, low productivity, and we will be on the road to be like St. Lucia. Increased crime. We seem to be changing the preference for crime was the cutlass. The weapon of choice was the cutlass. Remember, all of our borders are wide open. The technology provides information easy for us. If we change the weapon of choice to the gun, then we will be like St. Lucia. Grenada crime rate was much lower than many other countries in the Caribbean. Although we have had political upheavals in the past, we were able to maintain a low crime rate. And I believe the sole reason is Grenada had the most money invested in the social safety net program. Government seems to be getting rid of the social safety net program, or the quantum that was spent in it. The government seems to be very dismissive of people in the lower income group. People who have been working for years, they have lost their job without justification, without explanation, without reason. The only thing that is on the table is political victimization. That's the seed of bitterness. You sow in the seed of anger. You're going to contribute to a lot of young men leaving the country to go to greener pastures. England welcomes them. After this war that's going on in Europe, England wants people. So the men between 18 and 30 or 18 and 25, the prime of our society is living for London. They're living for England, to go to the army, to be security guards, to be national guards, because the English, the local English, or the Grenadian English, they're not joining the army. So we are running them. What you're doing, you're creating serious brain drain. That is the prime of your youths. But if you make it difficult for them to get jobs here, they're going to go. And don't believe some of your own supporters would be unproductive. I don't waste time speaking much about people in the public service and teachers and policemen, because they have strong unions and they have staff orders and laws. If they feel they have reason to believe that they are illegally treated, they have a course of redress. So I don't waste time with them. But the people on the ground that the government is taking advantage of, without justification, without explanation, you are sowing the seed of anger and bitterness in our society. It's only a matter of time before these things filter down in our schools. And you're going to have a country that is unproductive. And you have a lot of social problems. And how you going to deal with it? Grenada might be looking for help from outside. It is not necessary. Those of you who have big houses and gated communities, you would not be safe. Yes, caller, welcome. Yes, caller, welcome. Yeah. Those of you who have big houses and gated communities would not be safe. You will not be safe. Don't believe because your children go to school and they did extremely well, they will not cohabit with the guys on the block that the only thing they have is a birth certificate. Even if you're doing well in Grenada, you don't have money, you don't have enough money to live in the high end of the scale. So you will be at the very community you live. And you will be the target group. Because the neighbors say you don't have money. When are we going to realize that? Some of the actions that the government is taking now, people could come to them and encourage them that this would not help. It is not going to help the country. We have been there before. Maybe they need to go back and take a peek in history. When the GNP come out to the symbol, the torch, they never expect the response from the people of Gulf. When they see the torch, they say that was a symbol of slavery, a symbol of advantages. Yes, caller, welcome.
Mr. Pierre.
Yes, caller, welcome.
Good day, Mr. Pierre.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Mr. Pierre, from the time you're preaching, you start preaching it. Start preaching about you encouraging violence and things in this country. You telling people that they go attack the people with the higher children. So why you under do? It's them they go attack. You actually tell them to go and attack them people in money. Mr. Pierre, preaching a lot of racism and hatred in this country. Mr. Pierre, stop that. You have a good day.
Thank you, caller. It is nice for you to not to wake up, caller. You need to wake up, caller. Caller, the government advocated, Deacon Mitchell said in Tobago that it is not transformation. It is restorative justice. Caller, Deacon Mitchell appointed a ministry for restorative justice. And the National Democratic Congress is talking about detoxification and sanitization. And you seem to agree with him. Immediately on the government coming to power, the women of Carriacou lost their job. Caller, the government promised to build 500 houses per parish per year. But the government take back the keys from the people who got houses in Carriacou. Caller, if the government promised to build 500 houses per year, give them 4 years. That is 2,000 houses. So why not take the 2,000 houses and give it to the people? And leave the people the previous government give the house. Caller, the government fired 30 people from Grandba's estate. They were walking. And you know that 4 people cannot man the estate. Caller, workers that involve in pest control, they home. No explanation. No justification. The government didn't even say, we're sending you home, so let us do the test the LD 50 in your body. No explanation. Caller, there are people that was involved in the women caregiving program. Not women, but caregiving program. Most of them are fired. But those the minister, the representative, negotiated with the Minister of Social Affairs, they start to send them home one by one. Yes, caller, welcome.
Mr. Pierre,
yes, caller, welcome.
About promises. The past government, they promised Grenadian that they have iron gas, they find iron gas, and the next year they will start producing it.
Caller, how many people, caller, how many people lost their job as a result of oil and gas? Answer me, caller. How many Grenadians lost their job? You're gone. How many people lost their job? Now, Deacon Mitchell, as I said, is a fake. And it's difficult for me to understand now so much Grenadians decide to agree with him. And that is why I'm pointing out the consequences would not be for one sector Grenadian alone. Do you think it is easy to be the sole income owner in your home and you lose your job? Remember what Deacon promised these people. He promised them that he would make them permanent. He chastised the previous government for not making them permanent. If you don't believe me, go back and listen to the interview that he had with Forrester. Yes, caller, welcome.
Hello, Mr.
Yes,
Pierre,
caller,
good
welcome.
morning. How are you?
Great, man.
The caller will now come and call and ask the Prime Minister and see. I want to ask him if Grenada do have gas and oil.
Yeah, well, I
If
think,
the Prime Minister lied that Grenada don't have gas and oil.
caller,
Gas and oil don't come overnight. It take a matter of time, it take years.
caller, nobody in Grenada lost their job as a result of that. Now, the caller want me to shift focus. And I think it is important to constantly remind the National Democratic Congress of the evil they are practicing in Grenada. I think it's very important. And if they need a reminder every day, I will have to remind them every day. Yeah? Yes, caller?
Mr. Pierre, good afternoon.
Go right ahead.
Time will tell. Tell him time will tell. The island gas go invoke just now. But all NMP, all the NMPs and them, get ready. Don't forget. Take out all your ID. Time will tell. Me and Mr. Kit Mitchell work, clean the house, spray up the house with bag and all the termites and them, and we're ready to go. All LMP come on board. I know about the island gas. That I'm going to come. Island gas don't come in now. Island gas will come because the money to get island gas. You check it out? Dr. Kit Mitchell wouldn't leave the people hungry and take the island gas. He would not do it. But they're telling themselves they come to live, they come to go. One thumb, they're reaching thumb. The ones they take a year, we're ready to come. So don't worry them. All LMP come on board. I say it already, come on board. Mr. Pierre, have a blessed day.
Yes, caller. That's one of the... Yes, caller, welcome. Yes, caller, welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Pierre.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah, boss.
Good, man.
Right. I want to ask the previous caller, the guy that talking here. Name which one of the NDC ministers or members in the Senate, in the upper house, which one of them haven't benefited from the NDP government from 1995 to now? Which one of them? Tell me which one hasn't benefited, right? So when Deacon saying that he ain't seen nothing going on in Grenada, he says before Bishop and like that, he's lying, he's a fake. Let me tell you something. This oil and gas issue that they're trying to bring up, that keep the same Dr. Michel lie about it, open polls. The man said we found oil and gas. He never said we're going to exploit oil and gas. Who understand how exploit oil and gas works? It takes years to go and drill for oil. It takes years for oil company to come and drill in your country, right? They make a reference to Guyana. My God. Look at Guyana. The whole Guyana. Look what happened in Guyana.
That is a strong caller. There is a strong statement to say the whole Guyana government is corrupt. It's a very strong statement.
In my opinion, right? But look what happening. Certain people making money in Guyana on this whole thing, right? And it's rather telling what happened. And lastly, Mr. Pierre, you're always calling out the learned doctor, the journalist that have a doctorate. All of a sudden, he become quiet now because somebody said that he apologized to them. Lo and behold, that person lie on him. What going on in Grenada? What is going on in Grenada? Have a good afternoon, Mr. Pierre.
Yes, caller, the National Democratic lie in pile. Now, politicians does excite the truth. They does expand the truth. But when a government sit down and plan to lie, That is a pile of lie. And I think a number of people within the National Democratic Congress believe they could just lie and get away with it. And they will. And they will. If radio personalities, yes, scholar, welcome. Yes, scholar, welcome.
Mr. Pierre,
Go right ahead.
this gentleman who is called yeah, I think he needs to study history. The first government that started the exploration of oil and gas was the NDC government. Should he forget when the Honorable Tillman Thomas, Prime Minister, I think along with Anselm Clouden and a few others, went down Trinidad to have discussions regarding oil and gas. And if I'm not mistaken, I think they came up with about 2 of the Prime Minister's vehicles. That is what they got in return. So he must get his facts straight and know his history. And you must correct him also. It was not the NNP that first started the exploration of oil and gas. So anybody that lying is under the Honorable Tillman Thomas that first started that talk about oil and gas. Thank you, Mr. Pierre.
Yes, that is the power of the freedom of expression. And yes, come. Go ahead.
Yes. And must take time off to analyze what you say and how you say it. However, I think your analogy of the war in Ukraine is very, very important, especially for this generation to understand how the effect it would have on us. The people we have now returning from England was as a direct result of the number of persons and the young workforce that was lost between World War I and II. And so England had no choice but to open up England for especially persons coming from the Commonwealth to replenish their workforce. And the war in Ukraine will be lost by Ukraine in terms of not have the numbers to match Russia unless NATO would put significant number of persons, especially on the ground in Ukraine, Russia, from a number standpoint, and Russia being the second most powerful, has the most powerful army, second most powerful army in the world, they would do serious damage to Ukraine. We are feeling the effects of it here already. The inflation we are facing is as a direct result of what is happening. However, Mr. Pierre, the topic of the day, that bill, which I refer to as an oppressive bill, and every time I talk about this bill, I say it is an attack on the Magna Carta. Now, before the Magna Carta, everything where justice was concerned was in the hands of the king. He was judge, juror, and executioner. Magna Carta, the greatest bill of rights and civil liberties that has ever been passed in the House of Commons in England. Today, my question is, if a donor country or a financial agency want to finance any program, a project in Grenada, why it is that we must pass an oppressive law which would infringe on the rights of the citizens of this country. No country which is ruled under a democratic government, no agency that has democratic principles would want a government to pass laws that is oppressive in your country to oppress your people. And therefore, I just do not understand why is it that we have to pass such a law or a bill in order to obtain $24 million for programs or projects in Grenada. We are accustomed to getting money to do programs and projects without passing an oppressive bill. So this one really, is above my intellectual ability. I'll give some explanation on that. And the next thing, as you said, if people don't understand, no, that this month of March is revolution in Grenada. Pharaoh Revolution, Gay Revolution, Morris Bishop Revolution, the month of March. The last convention of the National Democratic Congress was held on the 5th of March, which is regarded as the Eyes of March, when Brutus slew Caesar, one of his most trusted lieutenants, that is known as the Eyes of March, Haile Bruti. And therefore, in every room where there is a Brutus, there is a Mark Antony. I want our government to understand that when Marcus Brutus said to the Romans that Caesar was ambitious, so he had to kill him, Mark Antony said to them, when the poor have cried, Caesar has wept. Have a good evening, Mr. Pierre.
Yes, my friend, and I think this is what we're missing out. I have not said much about the bill. The government is weaponizing a law. What has happened there, the National Democratic Congress have always been a short-sighted government. They have not been deep thinkers. And they have always made blunders of grandiose proportion. The National Democratic Congress always hostile towards the poor. Always hostile towards the poor. And in looking back in history, you go back to GNP. Yes, caller, welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr.
Yes,
Pierre.
caller, welcome.
How are you? And how are you, Mr.
Great, man, good.
All right. Now, there's a caller always telling you about the oil and gas that Mr. Keith Mitchell say we're getting oil and gas in next year and whatnot. And I think that is misleading. Mr. Keith Mitchell never promised oil and gas in next year. And Mr. Keith Mitchell never said that we want to just get oil and gas. So he said that they have not finished dig the wells and they have more oil well to dig. And a company was set up to do that. And the Trinidad had agreed to take all the oil from Grenada through the pipe. And he still came back and said, because of the war and because of other things where the persons that have to drill didn't have the finance available at the time to drill the rest of wells. So there's nothing to say that we have not found oil in Grenada and oil was not coming. There was an agreement with Trinidad to take all the oil. So I think the gentleman must stop saying that.
I think the gentleman won't stop, caller. Because every time he says that...
But he's saying the wrong thing.
Caller, every time he says that to get 4 or 5 people to move away from the subject we're talking and to talk about oil. Every time he says that, if you notice when he comes in, anytime I'm speaking about people losing their jobs, he wants to distract that topic. And he has successfully done that because every time he says that, individuals forget the fact that we have to empathize with those that losing their job and we gone to oil. And one of the individuals in Jamaica say, pray to God, Jamaica don't get oil.
And in Guyana, there was over 20 years advance than any other country for oil.
What is most important now in Grenada is not...
And they still have not...
Why is important now is the people that going home without job, cocoa, jana pie. They have to eat stewing and sunsas. And we don't have enough people sympathetic to their cries. As the caller said, every time the poor cry, there must be a Caesar.
Yes, so giving people impression Mitchell promised oil in next year and no oil. It's not true. That was thoroughly explained to people.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. The National Democratic Congress like that. This group of individuals, if you go back and watch history, the National Democratic Congress always hostile to workers. They always had a good propaganda program. Yes, caller, welcome.
Because before the Prime Minister said that they find oil and gas and they're drilling it the next year, saying they should one well already and they are X amount in it and he have to drill one so you get no oil. So Mr. Pierre, why Mr. Clifford come down like the people? Mr. Pierre, let me tell you something. I want to ask Mr. Clifford, how much money he benefits from
who speak? Caller.
Yes.
You identify the person who speak by the voice?
Yes.
I don't. I say I did not.
Well,
and caller.
Yes.
You have the opportunity to say what you want to say. Let us not try to attack callers.
I don't attacking him.
Unnecessary. Yes, you're asking him how much money he receives. Caller, you're asking him how much money he receives. You want to know if he benefits
$1 million stimulus package. I ask you how much money he benefits from it.
Caller. This stimulus package Deacon give out there was a trick. Deacon should tell us what happened to the $2 million in GDP. Caller, the amount of corrupt acts that going on now, and I'm not speaking about it because I don't have the habit of really attacking politicians without much proof. And you ask me about the stimulus package, and I just don't bother with you because I don't even think you understand it. I don't even think what you need to do is to ask Deacon anytime what are the successful projects that come from the stimulus package. This is a means to reward NDC supporters. That's what it was, caller. The government don't even care if the project succeed or not. And if I'm on the radio still, a year from now, I'm going to ask these questions. The government don't care whether the project succeeds or not. This money was to reward some supporters. It was the said National Democratic Congress that cut down Belvedere, nutmeg, and plant banana. People in agriculture was stunned and shocked. Yes, caller, welcome. And turn off your radio in the back. Just go and turn off your radio first.
Yes, Mr. Pierre.
You turn off your radio?
Pierre, the stimulus package that the Prime Minister offered to the people is a failure. It's a failure. I want people to call, and the amount of people call police station and tell them, yes, they get you. I was one of the victims, and there are many more that didn't get a hearing from the stimulus package. The stimulus package was bust, and it was corrupted. Because a lot of people who get stuff from the stimulus package sell it over. It wasn't properly organized. It bust, and they're not telling people that the stimulus package bust. They have no more money to give nobody. I don't want the victim. Make run up and down, and nothing come out of it. All no, nothing. So tell the man about stimulus package. MP had a stimulus package. It was not big, but plenty of people benefit of it. It wasn't 30 grand or all this government say they're giving. They give us what they could afford. A little 1,000, a little 2,000, and a lot of people benefit. I was one of the beneficiaries of it, so I could tell you that. So tell this man how she much about stimulus package. There was a failure of the people of Grenada. That was just a bribe. Thank you, Mr. Pierre. Have a nice day.
The National Democratic Congress, the speed with which they go after it, I knew that. So don't bother with that. The government started up with a spice project. And what they do, they freeze the distribution of spice in the propagator to get it to make a stunt. If you want to have a serious project with spice, you have to take about a year to prepare the plants. The government never prepared plants. So I know that was a stunt. The National Democratic Congress in the past took out a loan to cut Belvedere nutmeg to plant banana. Yes, caller, welcome.
Mr. Pierre,
Go right ahead.
the stimulus package was for people to think,
I know.
Making people go.
Yeah.
How they making people go? That's how man bring that stimulus package, because they fine everybody. So they put in it like a bribe to tell people to come and take that money to start their business.
But the people that was
They well like Mr. Pierre, so they already told people on them.
Yeah.
They didn't put statements for nobody because they fine everybody. So they put in it like a threat, like a whole lion type Grenadian people comforting and letting no money to give nobody. So nobody with them.
Yes, scholar. It seems that we want to pass over the fact that the National Democratic Congress sat down in a lab, planned to lie, and deliver a pile of lie. They told people we're going to make you permanent. The members of the MNIB never expect to be fired. The workers in the Imani program, they never expected to be tortured. Even today, some of them don't get money for February. And when you see some of them that don't get money, you could see it's an act of victimization. And this is why individuals in our society who claim that they're objective and they're neutral, radio personalities and journalists, they could save the day by speaking out about these things and let the government correct themselves. The government is 9 months in office. The government could correct those mistakes they're making. But if the government continue to entrench victimization, you're going to get a drop in production. Your ministries will not be productive. You're going to interfere with the very unity on the ground. You have to give the workers on the estate some explanation. They expect it to be made permanent. The Minister of Agriculture and the Permanent Secretary, I understand, visited the estate, complimented and applauded the workers. Yes, Scholar, punch.
Mr. Pierre, I am surprised that your colleagues and them don't know they're benefiting from the stimulus package.
All right, Color, I had you about 4 times. Color, I ask people to be reasonable on this program. I always ask people to be reasonable. We have an hour. And I encourage people to be reasonable. You could call back. I'll give you 3 calls. But you're on the same target. You're on the same thing. So, you call me tomorrow. So the government must give some explanation. The government hiding from the press. And the government trying to intimidate the press. Obviously, that's a battle the government is losing. Because in this era of technology, you cannot intimidate personalities on the press. You can't do that. You could hide away from the conventional journalists. And in today's society, the conventional journalist is going to become obsolete. You don't have to go to university anymore to be a journalist. Based upon the technology that it is avoiding the press conferences. And you believe by hiding information could help you. No. More you hide information, more speculation would rise. For instance, we still going to inquire constantly about that 2 million involved in GDP. But I blame the government. I blame the members of the board. You're not supposed to let yourself be a dumb-driven cattle on a board. So you can go on the board and be used as a rubber stamp. So if you gave an individual $500,000 to pay the debt he owes you, and you gave him $500,000 to pay other people, and $500,000 to pay the banks that he publicly he is not dealing with, And then you give him $500,000 for good management. You on board looking stupid. You know? You're letting yourself look as a rubber stamp. And when people on a board, they have to know the intake. You have to remember that your integrity is at stake. So I'm not blaming the recipient, O'Halloran, I'm not blaming him. Jono, I'm not blaming you. Mr. 10%, I'm not blaming you. The members of the board, you let yourself be used as a rubber stamp. And that's not good. Because maybe 40, 50 years ago, people won't call you out. But at this stage in our society, you will be called out. At some time, you will have to face and give explanation. Why is it you went on the board? Because people believe you had integrity. And then when you reach there, you act as a rubber stamp. Then obviously, people would want to call you out. You know? This is the first day of our program for the week. We're still in the period of Lent. Lent is a period of time when you encourage people to make some sacrifice, do penance, and to be more generous. You know, give alms. And to be cognizant of what goes on in the country. And also to empathize with the income owners. The government has shuttered the power of a number of income and its low income owners. So we want you to empathize with them. We're back with you again tomorrow between 12 and 1. Thank you.